so many different things come to mind. Kristi did a great job of everyone telling stories, but one thing that came to my mind from many of them was making one of them eggs in the morning with Papa. I don't know, some of you ever had it? It's delicious. Always the best. And always like the knuckle. Papa was just always with us and just the best. So I love you, Papa.
Kristi forgot to mention something. She was known as Kristi Biscuit. My story has to do with John's earlier days, John and Judy.
Right in there.
In the early days when John and Judy were in Sudbury, we played bridge. One night we're at the Maudsleys, Barb and Don's, and John has gone to the washroom. So he arrives back at the bridge table with this pretty little glass dish with these little green soaps. Oh, okay. So he goes off to our friend Roxy Zerber, and he says, Roxy, how about trying it out? So Roxy takes this nice little round rosebud-shaped piece of soap and bites into it. Now, to be fair to John, he never expected it was going to be so violent tasting. So let's go fast forward 5 years. We're at Birch Lake and the 4 couples are there again. And we've had a wonderful dinner. Dessert is being served. Roxy is sitting next to John. She takes her plate of blueberry pie and whipping cream, turns to John and smushes it all over his face. Now, this is almost 5 years later. John is totally surprised. Then he turns and he laughs and he says, Roxy, I've been waiting all these years for you to get back at me. So that's my John story.
So again, we want everybody to come on up and tell some stories about John, but we also need people at the back to listen to the stories, or if you want to sit outside, there's an outside area to talk, but it's really loud in the back. You can hear the voices at the back. So come on up next.
Hi, my name is Diane McCardle, and I was a classmate of both Judy and Sharon. And at one time, Gary, my husband, was also a classmate of John's at St. Mike's. So, a year ago, more than a year ago now, a year ago and a bit, my husband had a diagnosis. It wasn't particularly pleasing, and he had major surgery here in Sudbury. And so we spent some time with Sharon and John. And our intention was to rent a suite at a hotel where you could have kitchen services and so on. And I was saying to John that that's what we thought we might do. And John grabbed me by the cheeks and said, you know, Diane, if you're in a hotel and I find you there, I'm going to drag you out and bring you to our house. And consequently, Gary had to spend 7 weeks in Sudbury, and he was a guest of Sharon and John that whole time. And he was so grateful because the treatments only took a little bit of time each day. So fortunately, Sharon and John's digs are very pleasing. So Gary could bring his kayak and bike. And on occasion, I would go down and visit. We celebrated an anniversary and Sharon and John's anniversary with them and a few other good times. Not to mention our euchre tournaments, Sharon and I against John and Sharon. So it was a very fortunate time for us to have Sharon and John in Sudbury, and we thank them. Thank you very much.
I'll raise the mic up a little bit after that one. Buddy Herold, I'm Uncle John's nephew. I'm not the eldest of 17 grandchildren. That would be Cameron. Mentioned that a few times. Eldest of 17, right? That just goes to show you. My cousin Kristi is older than her two cousins that were born in the same year by 5 days. Again, she will remind you of that all the time. Goes to show you that little sense of competition. And cousin Todd, Casimir Todd, wins the competition in my books because he's got John's best friend. And I think that a lot of us want to be John's best friend. Cousin Todd won that one for sure. Anyhow, my story, Kristi talking about the American penny is kind of funny because I didn't realize this. I was talking about it on the drive up with my wife Danielle. And I got an email just 2 days ago, I think, from somebody. And it was a response to an email that I had sent to them. So my name's Buddy Herold. Email comes in, Herold, Buddy. I hope everyone in the room knows how to spell Herold. Herold. Seeing the license plate over here reminded me of this one. And this is going to be John's sign to me every now and then. It's going to piss me off, and I'm going to laugh about it for sure. Because I got an email response from this individual saying, spelling Herold, H-A-R-R-O-L-D. He got the E wrong and the 2 R's, not one. And the license plate over here, you know that was a pet peeve of John's. Every time I get an email, every time I see my name spelled incorrectly, I'm going to get mad about it, and I'm going to chuckle about it because it's John's sign to me. So thank you very much.
Who was here first? We can't be related. That was Casimir the Fourth who was speaking there. I'm going to speak right into the microphone, I think. I'm not going to take a lot of time. Bib, I was actually planning to sing the song that Josh Groban sang. He didn't do it as well as I did, but I just think we could pass on that part and get right onto it. I wanted to just speak a little bit about the person that I still believe is my best friend. I know that Todd thinks that John was his best friend, but Todd's right. Todd is his best friend, but John was my best friend. So that makes it for a bit of a triangle, but we'll sort that out in November, Todd. I think we can get it worked out. I wanted to talk to you because, and I had to explain to my wife, who can't be here today, nor my twin sister, who can't, both for some health reasons. They're going to be fine, but they couldn't travel. I have had to tell Joanne, my wife, many times not to feel jealous about the fact that John is my best friend, because I've known John for 80 years, and I've only known Joanne. That's her name, Joanne, yes. That's right, you know, I haven't known her that long. 55 years, or 56 years. So because of that, I thought I could just add a little bit to what I knew all the people would be talking about. That is the things they've known about John over the last just few years, maybe 50 or 60, but not 81 or 80. I'm going to start with, we heard a little bit about the three of us being born, Donna and I and John a year and a week later, and Irish twins, I think, was that? Yeah, Irish triplets. Or we were called the Bobbsey triplets or the Three Musketeers, and some of the stories that I could tell you, and I'm not going to waste all of your time, would cement that image in your mind. But why I think I should tell you a little bit is because I know John from the time he was born. Now, I don't remember him from the time he was born. I was only a year old. I'm not that good, but I can remember him certainly from when we were going to kindergarten. We were talking about John's educational experiences, which have been wonderful. John failed kindergarten. You know, that's not easy. That's not easy. But there's a good excuse for it. As I said, we were three. My mother had the biscuit. She just couldn't take looking after 3 children for 4 years. So when John was 4 and Donna and I were 5, she enrolled us all 3 together in Blessed Sacrament kindergarten. And at the end of the year, the teachers got together and realized that 3 was too many, so they would take the most rambunctious one, who just also happened to be the youngest, and ask him if he would come back again for another year. And that's what he did, and but I always had to remind him that he did fail kindergarten. He said, well, that wasn't the last time, so don't worry about it. We were 10 and 11 years old when we came up to Canada. And there were then 4 of us. Susan, who's here, that's the same one, yes. Susan was the 4th, 2 more yet to come once we moved to Canada. And so there were 6 people to move up, and we didn't have cars the size of that in those days. So my mother and 3 children would drive up, and my dad would take one of the children onto the airplane. And John came up to Donna and I, and he was just gloating, and he said, you know, I've told you, they love me the best. He said, I get to fly up in the airplane, and it wasn't until about 20 years later that we learned that my mother had laid down the law and said, there's no goddamn way that I'm gonna drive from Worcester to Toronto with John as well as all the other children. There's no way I'm gonna be able to control them, so please find a way, and that's why John became their favorite son. I want him to know that. You know, I was thinking, a lot of you probably are familiar with the little Johnny jokes. You know, yeah. Well, I finally came to the conclusion that whoever it was that wrote them, and I don't know who it was, obviously knew our John Boy. They are so similar to some of the things that John did and said. Without PC, by the way, I quite agree. John was the least politically correct person I know. He claims that I had that, but it was probably a toss-up. I won't go through St. Mike. I made a couple of notes of things I wanted to talk about, but we've talked about St. Mike's and St. FX and his love of football. And what nobody mentioned was that he was actually recruited to try out for the Toronto Rifles, who didn't last very long. And the summer before the tryouts, he damaged his leg fairly badly in, of all things, a water skiing incident, and wasn't able to play. But he was a really good athlete. One of us had to be, and it certainly wasn't me. In fact, I don't know where Buddy got his athleticism, and where Buddy's son, Cas V, gets his athleticism. It has to be through some other genetic malfunction, I'm not sure what it is. What a lucky man, 2 wonderful wives, 2 beautiful, physically and otherwise wives. He has said so many times to me, I can't believe I hit the jackpot twice in a row. He was just a very fortunate man. Bib talked a little bit about his reading of the Bible, and I was going to talk a little bit about Hunt Camp, but I realized that probably won't be politically correct either, so I'm not going to. But I will tell you one story about Hunt Camp, and it was even before John and Bib were married, but when he was courting Bib, or she was courting him, or maybe a little bit of each. And I went into John's room, and he had the light turned down, and his door was closed, which wasn't always the case. And I walked in, I didn't knock, and he put something under the covers. I said, oh God, he found one of Danny or Davy's Playboys. Danny and Davy, I don't know if you've met them, you have heard, I'm sure, if not tonight, about one of his dearest friends, Henry Ford. Henry Ford has been a friend of John's for, how long, 50 years? Got to be, pretty close. Davy and Danny now hunt with us. And sometimes they bring up magazines, Life magazine, Time magazine. So I thought he had found one, or Hockey News. So John, come on, show it to me. He said, no. Come on, show it to me. He said, you promise you won't tell anybody? I said, yeah, I promise. Pulled out a copy of the Bible. He was reading the Bible at hunt camp, and I thought, this is a new John. This is a different John, but no more spiritual and no more faithful, but a different John. It was just something that really stuck with me. I don't have to talk about the three kids. We've already seen them talk about them already. I don't think I'll. Did I have anything else I wanted to say? I can't remember. Don't get to be 81. Third week. Oh yeah, the third week in November. It has been forever for John and for Henry. We lost 3 hunters in the last 6 weeks. Henry Ford, Johnny Comfort, and now Johnny Herold, John Boy. But we have had such a marvelous time. And some of the people, I see Dwayne Bunka back there at the back, people that have, Hawk is here, over here somewhere, there he is. We have a wonderful time the third week of every year. When I started a new job about 40 years ago now, or 35 years ago, I had it built right in to the computer that never ever would I be required to perform any duties on the third week in November, and it stuck for the whole time that I was doing that job. So with that, I think I will just say, John Boy, I wish I had a writer's deal. I made a terrible deal today. I don't usually make terrible deals, but I made a really bad one today. My daughter Janice is here with me tonight. Joanne couldn't be, and Janice is, and Buddy, of course, is here. Jody can't. And so I said to Janice, we can go up and back at the same time, to the same day. Why don't you drive up, and I'll drive back? Was that ever stupid? I didn't know the Writer's Tears was going to be here, so I don't have a glass to. No, I can't though. But thank you, Todd.
I'll do it for you.
You are too sweet. Todd has never ever let me down. God bless you. Okay, thank you. To John Boy. Yes.
Are there any other hunt camp guys?
Dave Ford, Dwayne,
Dave, Denny,
Paul.
Come on.
Luca.
Here, all of them.
Are there any Just take it out of the bottle. That's what they usually do. Oh, there's Ralston. Yes. Oh, and Mario. One of the originals. One of the original owners. And, yes, as Murray says, I'm not only the earliest, I'm the youngest. So we'll keep that in mind. I look younger, but he is actually younger. All right, let's keep it clean. Oh. Buddy, where's Buddy? Right here. Oh, good. Good.
Maybe you should take up the Bible. You might actually shoot a deer one day.
You know what? That has been John's biggest disappointment in the 40 years that he and I have hunted together. I've shot moose, but I've never harvested a deer. I came really close once. When I hit up the tree about 12 feet high. Yeah.
He's got to start smoking cigars in the tree stand again, apparently.
Yeah.
That'll help.
Oh, thank you. All right, these are the hunters. To John Boy. John Boy. Thank you. Thanks for doing that, Todd. Okay. Wish I could have some.
My name's Rol Miller, and I'm pretty sad.
I was Kristi's first husband, and I had the wonderful blessing of getting to know all of the people in John's family that touched his life. And I know these are supposed to be happy memories. It's a little tough right now, and they really are. The very first time I met John, he took me in, to be quite frank with you, like no other adult person in my life had done. Same with Judy, and same with Sharon. He was just amazing with the grandkids. And so I'm trying to get through it, and there's a song lyric that comes to mind, which is, like a man saddle hard road and put away wet, set aside the sad news and put it to rest. John's not with us here physically, but he's certainly here in our hearts. And the thing that I just wanted to share about John, which was great, I remember when Kristi and I first time that we got out with kids, I was scared shitless, to be quite frank. And you know, John was always very on point with the very succinct advice. He's like, "What? What's that?" It's like, "What are you worried about?" I was like, "I don't know if I'm ready." He's like, "You're never ready for anything." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, you're never ready for anything." He's like, "You're never going to know how to answer all the questions." He's like, "You know what's important? Just try and answer them." So I'm just going to share that because that's something I've carried in my heart since John has told me that. So I will never forget the days of watching him watch our kids and friends do things, of being amazing, of being an asshole, because that's human. That's just the human condition. The special times I will carry with me to my dying day is seeing him with his grandsons. And I don't want to be too gender specific here because he had great moments with the girls too. But opening days with grandsons in tree stands is something that is, I knew that was one of the things in his life, and I know that Todd and myself and other guys watched those things with adoration and joy in our hearts. Regardless of what happened during the day of the hunt, it was always a special moment. So I would like to thank everyone in the Bibby Herold entourage, Kristi, all of his brothers and sisters. They are wonderful people that have bathed my life in love and warmth, and I know they've done that for many of you too. So what else can I say? John, I miss you and I love you, and I hope everyone has a good time remembering the good stuff tonight.
Well, I know there's going to be a few gasps from the crowd you've seen up here. For those of you who don't know me, my name's John Porter, 51 years old, single, bought a pretty cool house and a pretty cool German Shepherd. So you can leave your resume with Mark Gregory at the door. Anyway, John, super nice guy, gentleman. Reminded my dad a lot, like a pretty cool cat and whatnot. And Kristi, when you're talking about the penny, so Todd, you'll remember this would be about probably 2 months ago. Jody had posted on Facebook there's going to be a yard sale because they were moving out of their house on Cathy Coe, just around the corner from me. I'm not going to give the address yet just because. Anyway, so I want to be the first one there, but unfortunately my dog had run away in the morning. Like he was hanging out, she was hanging out in the mailbox. I don't know why. But anyway, I got there about 10 after 9, and I'm like, "Do you have any patio furniture?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Anyway, talked to John, and I see this, like 2 beautiful things that caught my eye. There was a Blue Jays chair, like vintage from the 1970s, all woven and whatnot. I'm like, this would look really good, even though I'm a Pirates fan. Go Jays, go now, okay, just because I'm here. And there was this vintage Coca-Cola cooler, this big, this high, whatever, metal, like really, really nice. And it's got a price tag of $2. And I said, "Hey man, Mr. Herold," he said, "John?" "It's John." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." So Mr. Herold, this thing is worth like $100. And I said, Todd, like, you sure you don't want to, no, it's okay. So $2 for that, $10 for the Jay's chair. The Jay's chair is wrecked. But I still prop it up when people sit on my patio, they fall down, so it's quite amusing. I think there's a couple lawyers here, so I need to talk to you later if that's okay. So anyway, Kristi, with the spiritual thing, you know, I've lost my parents, I've lost my brother. Yeah, it sucks. It feels like somebody's grabbed you and beat the snot out of you, left with nothing but friends and family and laughter. You always keep them around that way. So anyway, this morning, and Steve's the ex-words here. He was supposed to come with me today, but I don't know. I texted him all day and he was already here, but you know, the cooler too. So this morning, I'm giving Rosie her food and whatnot. And the wind kind of changed. We had that the winds have changed where we finally, well, not finally, we got that east wind where it's cold. And this thing's got to weigh 10 pounds. So I'm feeding Rosie in the room. It's 7:30 in the morning, and I hear this big bang. I'm like, not Big Bang Theory, Big Bang. I'm like, what the hell is that fell out on my patio? So I go out and look, and lo and behold, that thing is tipped over. The wind is not strong enough to do it. And I'm getting goosebumps here as I say it. So I mean, spirits are alive. Spirits are real. Your dad was real. Real nice man, and yeah, that's pretty much it. And don't forget to leave your thing with Mark later on, if you don't mind. Thank you. God bless.
Hi everybody. I've known Sharon for over 50 years, and I have to say, when she and John decided to marry, I was happy for them, but I was sad for me. Sharon and I have been really close friends in Oakville, in Mississauga and Oakville, and honestly, it was like a death to me when she moved to Sudbury. But I have to say, John was so gracious to me. Every year he welcomed me to Florida, he welcomed me to their home in Sudbury, and I'm just so grateful for that time that I had with John and Sharon. So I just wanted you to know how gracious he was to me as a friend of Sharon's for so long. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name's Connor. I'm Cameron's youngest son, one of the grandchildren of Papa. I just wanted to say, I was from Vancouver, so I didn't get to see him as often as I would like, but I still got to see him every summer, and I'm really fortunate that I got to. He was literally there for us whenever we wanted. Like, he would FaceTime us once every 2 weeks, and I'd always pick up the call, ask what we're doing, always want us to be in sports. Like, he was the most supportive person ever. One of my biggest role models in my life. Just, I really admire the fact how he doesn't care about a lot of things. And he's just reckless but beautiful, and he's just such an amazing man. I have so many fond memories of driving on his lap and teaching me how to drive, and so many things, but I think we all really cherished him so much, and it's just sad he's gone, but he'll live throughout us forever, so I love him so much. I just want to say those things for him.
Is Cathy Coe here? Cathy? Cathy, oh, she snuck out. Cathy Coe, just so you guys know, Cathy is the daughter of Ted and Sheila, and Ted was one of my dad's best friends. They were here earlier today. Ted and my dad got into a lot of trouble together over the years, and Cathy, just coincidentally, happens to sort of run the funeral home, the Lougheed's funeral home. And so we met with Cathy, whatever day it was, it's all a bit of a blur now, a few days ago. And we were telling Cathy that we were going to have an open mic. And Cathy said, you know, I have a story about your dad. And when she told us the story, we said, you have to share that at the open mic. And she said, I don't know if I can do that. So I suspect she snuck out because she didn't want to get stuck up here. So I have to tell her story. She said, your dad was so special. When I was 9, she's 5 or 6 years younger than me. She said, you know, I always had such a big crush on your dad. Like, he was best friends with my dad, and I just loved him. He was such a fun guy. He was always so much fun to be around. And she said, do you remember, Kristi, he hired you to be a chauffeur for an evening, and he took me out on a date. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had totally forgotten. My dad made me dress up as a chauffeur. I put on a big chauffeur hat and a blazer, and Dad got pretend like sparkling wine, but it was grape juice, sparkling grape juice or whatever, because Cathy was like 9 years old. And we went and drove his big Cadillac. Trish, I know you love that Cadillac. Drove the Cadillac over to the Coe's house, and I had to get out and go ring the bell and get Cathy and let her know her date was there. I drove Dad and Cathy around Bell Park, and like it was a special date for Cathy, and it just kind of goes to show that's the kind of guy my dad was. Anything to sort of make someone else smile and laugh. He was just a fun. He just loved to have fun and make sure other people were having fun. And we just wanted to make sure you heard Cathy's story. I wish she could have told it herself. But.
Any other stories?
One more. Oh, okay.
We got a few more.
Go Jays.
Okay, go Jays. Okay, so whoever picked the time for this, John would be really pissed off because there is a Jays game on right now. I don't see a TV in here. Is there a problem with that? The Jays are losing 6-3, so like, can we start sending some positive vibes? So I'm actually here to talk about the Jays and John and my 2 daughters. John was over at our house September, it had to be September, 1992. At that time, my eldest daughter, Lindsay, was 6 years old. So John says something about baseball, and all of a sudden, Lindsay launches into this whole thing about how the Jays are on a winning streak. They don't have, she used to call him Dave Steve. She thought his name was Dave Steve, and he didn't have a last name. But Dave Steve was injured, but they had just signed on a new pitcher, David Conehead. Well, when John hears this from Lindsay, he couldn't believe this little kid is so knowledgeable about baseball. And that was the start of probably a 30-year relationship in terms of them going back and forth with the Jays. One of the most special days of my daughter's lives was the year following when John, who had contacts, had a friend who worked for the Jays, and he arranged to take Lindsay and Deirdre and Todd and Kristi into the Jays dugout. And they had a meeting with all the players, and I remember Kristi, was it you that told Pat Borders not to spit on my children's shoes? Because he was chewing his tobacco. And at that time, John told Lindsay, who's now 7 years old, that the reason there was a phone in the dugout was because whenever Cito Gaston needed advice, he would pick up the phone and call John. P.S. A couple of years ago, Lindsay was at the Dodgers ballpark in, where is it, Los Angeles? She does a tour of the stadium. There's a phone in the dugout, of course there is, called the bullpen. But she had to take a picture of herself on that and send it to John. So that was their lifelong relationship with John and the Jays.
Contact, Marian is my dad's youngest sister. So you put it all the
Much younger.
Much younger.
And I apologize to everybody when I said I was the youngest.
That's still Susan. That's still Susan over there. So you know what? Come on.
God, where's these still coming up?
They had to go.
Play the lead, okay. Anyone else want to come up and say? Miles? Well, I just want to say thank you to everybody for coming, for being here to celebrate, for being here to help us start some of our grieving, to be here to allow us to help you through some of your grieving. just a reminder that John would not want this to be the last time we spend time together, and he would want this to be the beginning of something meaningful that we can do in his legacy as well. So thank you for coming. This is not goodbye. This is, we'll see you later on this evening. We'll see you later on in the journey. And we love all of you. Thank you. Oh, and the bar is open for like another hour and a half here still too, so let's enjoy it.